Hello and welcome to the Sheffield Hopcast. We're somewhere around the halfway point of June now, and as you'll notice if you're watching the video, it's just the four of us. So we've not got a guest on this week, and I think the reason being that it sort of feels like tomorrow there's loads of shops that reopen and most schools are going back, and it kind of feels like we're not quite at the end of lockdown, but certainly approaching the end of it. So we thought that one thing we've not done is just the four of us just get together and just have a bit of a catch up and a kind of a chat about stuff that's been going on. So yeah, we'll do that and put the world to rights a little bit in today's episode. Of course, we'll all have a beer at the same time. So Adam is in another new room. I feel like we've had a true tour of his house from all kinds of different angles over the last few weeks. So we'll go to you first.
Yeah, I actually the first one of you that I've seen in the flesh was Sean the other day. I dropped him off something, and he quite kindly gave me a can in return. And this is a brand new Lost Industry beer, Matching Mullets, and it's a red IPA. And Sean claims that I might be the first person to have been handed it. That wasn't a seller, if you know what I mean.
It's quite exciting.
Jimmy had dropped those off about an hour before, so he will have probably dropped some of those off at some other shops, I would imagine. So somebody may have bought one over the weekend. I've not seen it promoted anywhere. We'll be promoting it in the next couple of days once we're back open.
I'm interested because, I mean, I think Lost Industry, I go straight direct to sours, and that's what I like of theirs. So to go for something like a red IPA, which is something I wouldn't normally gravitate towards anyway. Be interesting to see what they've done with it. So yeah,
absolutely. Adam, how many rooms do you have in your house?
What bedrooms?
Have you got? Is it like the biggest house in the world?
No, it's tiny.
Different room every week, or do you just paint a lot?
We've been moving. We've spent lockdown moving the little one to the bigger bedroom. So now if I were in the bedroom that I've been recording on, you'd see kind of see like dolphins and stuff behind me, or like got some like decals stick on the wall. So I found a nice sturdy shelf for my microphone in the box room where she used to be, and it's kind of holding well. So I've got my laptop just resting on like a shelf. So it's the first time we're going back to like the old half pint where we used to standing
up.
Stood.
I'm jealous of you.
Like a standing.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. Cool. All right, fair enough. I like the sound of the dolphin decals, by the way. If you want to make a return to that room next week, that'd be...
okay. I'll send you
right. Laura, as ever, the question to you is, what's your beer and what are you wearing?
I struggled to choose a beer today because it was World Gin Day yesterday and I drank quite a lot of gin. So I'm feeling I'm all right. But you know, when you're just looking at beer and I was like, I don't want anything too challenging. But I've picked this Love Cats Lager, which I bought for the name, obviously. It's from Evolution Beer Co., who are based in Shrewsbury. They're not a brewery I've come across before, so new beer, new brewery. And I've got a Duration Brewery lovely mint green t-shirt on today as well, which I got last year when I went on a Thanksgiving trip to visit Miranda and Bates from Duration. So.
Excellent. I like new brewery. That's exciting. I'm really, really rubbish for stuff like that. If ever I see a new brewery, I immediately move away from it rather than going towards it, which is daft really. So I'm always quite late to the party with new breweries because I just tend to stick to what I know. So good on you for trying something.
I've also got an Indie Man 2015 Craft Master.
Classic. That was a good year as well. Good stuff. And how was Gin Day? Any particularly noteworthy gins that you got through?
Yes, I had Conker Gin. Was very nice. Conker Gin. It wasn't. It's not. I think it's just the name of the distillery. I don't think it's actually made out of conkers. As far as I know, it didn't taste conkery. But it is spelt like the horse chestnut as opposed to the Victory kind.
I wouldn't have, if you'd have told me that it was made from conkers, I actually wouldn't have been surprised because that's quite normal, isn't it, in terms of like brewing and distilling and stuff now? Yeah, just some conkers in it, it'll be fine.
Yeah. So yeah, that was probably my favourite one.
Good stuff. And Sean, what do you have from your delightful beer store for us today?
We were lucky enough this week to get some cold shade cans in from the east coast of the USA, and including some equilibriums and some barriers that we were selling earlier on today. But I've grabbed a can from LIC Beer Project. Me and Deborah went to New York in 2016 and 2017, and in 2017 we stayed in Long Island City both times, and in 2017 we went to LIC Beer Project on a stormy, humid night in New York, and we just made it in before a massive downpour. We had a really good time in there, and so I've got their Party Crusher IPA, which we had on the night, and we brought some of this home with us, in our cases from the States as well. So I do like drinking beers that take me to different places and different memories. And so I'm having it in my other half glass, the smallest glass I have in my collection. I brought this home again in suitcase and went for their smallest glass just to avoid any smashes on the flight back home. And then just as we started, I also realised, this is a total coincidence, that I'm wearing my Roger Federer night t-shirt as well, which we also bought whilst in New York at the US Open. So I'm a Yankee Doodle dandy over the next hour. And Roger Federer, the greatest sports person of all time. I don't think I've said that on Sheffield Hopcast before.
You mean David Hurst, did you say? Sorry.
He is without doubt. He is my sporting idol. And so cheers to Roger. If he listens or watches, we're on YouTube. I'm going to pour this, and he's injured now for the rest of this year. So
we'll tag him in it, and maybe he'll lock down and injury.
Yeah,
probably tons of time to listen in.
Yeah.
I'm currently searching my map because I'm trying to find out whether or not I went to LIC Beer Project when I was in New York. I seem to think that I did. I seem to think it's quite close to the river, isn't it? And lots of wood inside. It's a very sort of wood modern, and incredibly warm inside as well, from my recollection, that it was really stuffy and really humid inside the place itself. And I was going to say really good beer, but this is kind of a given in New York, isn't it? It's like everywhere you go is good beer. So excellent, good choice. It's kind of bringing the memories flooding back of my trip to New York a couple of years ago. Cool. Right, I've gone for something that's quite unusual, actually. So I kind of got this because it just seems a bit bonkers. So it's part of the new Northern Monk Old Flax Store series that they're doing, and it's OSF 001, and it's a mango cacao sour. So it's brewed with Citra. It's got Alfonso mango, Peruvian cacao, and Madagascan vanilla in it. I can't even kind of second guess as to even what colour it's going to be when I pour this. I'm really confused as to how all those flavours are going to work together, but it's going to be interesting. It's 6.6%, and it just seems like a good beer for a nice sunny day, sunny afternoon, like today. Compared to the last few days, it's glorious, isn't it, today? So,
yeah,
cool.
I'm trying to think if I've had any other sours with that kind of flavouring in it. I can kind of imagining it, but it's a weird. I think sour and kind of cacao is a weird combination for me.
I've had a red wine barrel aged chocolate dark sour before.
Was it good?
That was nice.
It does sound.
It
It
really
just sounds
good.
like you get boozy chocolates, don't you, at Christmas? It just sounds like it'd be a bit like that.
The one that I had, it was from Amoratis Brewery, who were from South Carolina, who we brewed with them last year, and it was one of the beers they brought over. And I think the chocolate, it wasn't like the overwhelming flavour wasn't the chocolate, it was a red wine barrel aged sour that had chocolate in it, if that makes sense. It was sort of a really nice undertone of flavour rather than a chocolate beer. But it was really good.
It's very much kind of like the colour that you'd probably expect it to be. It's a mango colour. It would be a good one for my beer or juice game on Twitter. That, in fact, I Might take a photo
It's
of it.
not as thick looking as I expected it to be.
It's not actually. No, it does look quite. It actually tastes a little bit thinner than I thought it would be. Actually, you kind of expect it to have that juicy kind of syrupy sort of texture. It's quite unusual tasting. I think it's going to take me a little while to quite get used to that.
I'm imagining
Yeah.
it. You know, you get them yogurts that are kind of like a caramel yogurt or a caramel like a chocolate flavored yogurt, but not like a chocolate mousse. It's like a flavoring in a normal yogurt flavor. So you get that kind of slightly sourness you get from a yogurt, but with a weird sweet, like chocolate kind of flavor. I'm imagining something like that. It's a bit specific.
I like
but,
the so the series, the OSF series are just designed to. I think they're just doing like experimental brews, aren't they, and stuff with it, and just trying some things that don't really make any sense that you wouldn't logically do to just see what works and what doesn't. So I like stuff like that. I think fair play, really.
James, your game of juice or beer on Twitter, I did see that this week. Am I late to that, or was that your first effort at that game? And I don't know what the answer was. I think
I was thinking
there's a
this.
few of these.
Yeah, I've done it 5 or 6 times now. Yeah, and I always do the answer the day after. I always kind of re-quote the tweet and include the answer, but I don't think people necessarily see that because sometimes 4 or 5 days later, someone will still reply with the wrong answer, which is always quite amusing.
So
Twitter algorithms. Hey.
On last week's effort, I think 99% of the people went for juice. So were they right, or were they wrong, or what?
They were correct. Yes,
Right.
it was juice.
What was it?
It was cheap orange juice from Aldi, no less.
James's new favourite place, remember?
I love Aldi. I'm going tomorrow. I'm quite excited. It's the highlight of my week, and it's on Monday morning. The rest of the week will not live up to it. Really, honestly, if there's one thing that I've discovered from lockdown, it's just been how absolutely amazing Aldi is for everything apart from beer. Unfortunately, it's certainly cheap for beer, but they're all a bit rubbish. I'm afraid to say.
You're going to get lots of comments about Rhinebacker now. You will do.
That's not my kind of beer though, so I feel like
You'll still get them.
I maybe I'm being unfair on that because it's not my style. I have heard a few people actually say that it's really good for that sort of. It's a pilsner, isn't it? For kind of like a
Laura,
good,
have you had it, Laura?
quality pilsner.
You like you
I
kind
don't
of.
think I have.
You're probably like sort of German lager connoisseur, I suppose. Aren't you, anybody?
I don't think I have. I'll get some next time I go.
$2.99 for 4 cans. It's decent. I think they also do the is it Bill in a Kindle or something like that. Kindle, I can't remember. They used to do that anyway, but I'm pretty sure you used to be able to get Schoffer in it as well. But Schoffer,
I don't think you can anymore.
No, you can't anymore. 'Cause I don't.
The thing I find frustrating about it is they're obviously trying to kind of get a better selection of beers in, and I have tried pretty much all of them, and they've all been a bit. But the only stout that they sell is Guinness. That's it. That's the only one that they have on offer, which I grew out of many years ago. So that's the frustrating thing, you know, when you're just in the mood for a good stout. And Aldi just no, it's not. It doesn't exist. Speaking of beer and shops, Sean, I know you've probably had one of the more stressful weekends of the last few weeks because you reopen a matter of hours from now, technically tomorrow morning. How's everything been going? How's it all looking?
Yeah, weekend's been all right. Thursday, Friday, cleaning the shop and then restocking it. I'll let you all into a secret. What I didn't know, of course, quite how much beer we'd got in relation to the shop, because I'd been looking at beer for the last 3 months in our warehouses. So what I did first of all on Friday morning was go and take every beer up to the shop and face it in the shop, so I knew each individual beer and to see how much we got. And we had less than half that the shop needed down in our warehouses, and that's because we've had to change over the last 3 months. Whereas previously for the shop we would buy smaller quantities of a wider range of beer and then get them all out there and single face as many, pretty much 100% normally we've got single faced beers. But over lockdown, what I've been doing is ordering less beer, but much, much more of those individual beers to warrant the online demand. So it didn't come as a major shock, but I had less than half of what the shop required. So initially we'll do what we do often after Christmas and just face a few beers a couple of times in the shop, some maybe 3 times. So we've got a lot of beer on order this week. And if things go well this week, of course, because we're not quite sure as to how busy things will be, then we'll order more and more to meet the demand. So we've got a lot of beer, but it just took a little bit of a shock on Friday when I realised that we were a long way off what we had when we finished back in March. So yeah, we open tomorrow for a one time only. We're going to open at 8 a.m. tomorrow because I want to be there and in the shop when the market opens at 8 a.m. We normally open at 8:30 just to see how it all goes. There are going to be lots of safety restrictions. I think the market is capping the number of people at about 150. There's a one-way system around the market. There are arrows all over the place. There are barriers, and we'll have a maximum of 1 person in the shop at any one time. We've got all our signage ready for that. We've got our hand sanitizer pumps in our shop and around the market as well. So it'll be opened in as safe a way as is possible. But people have got used to that a bit more. People hopefully have got used to change and used to being more patient and perhaps allowing more time for their shopping experience. So we've got queuing docks as well opposite our stall. So I feel all ready. And one good thing as well for us is that it also allows us to bring another full-time member of staff back off furlough. So I'm actually looking forward to this week being a bit easier than the previous week. So Joanne's coming back. She's always a big help to us. Very much the shop organizer, Joanne. So it'd be brilliant to have her back and get her organising things in the shop for us again.
Great stuff. It will be interesting to see how everything works because I mean we've talked before, haven't we, about the layout of the market is kind of unique, and I guess the idea of a market is that there aren't huge big areas of space for people to pass through. It's designed to feel quite busy and quite hectic, isn't it? A market, that's kind of how they work. So
the original design of the market internally 7 years ago caught a few people by surprise. It stupidly has or had some very narrow areas that used to get very crowded anyway. So what they've done, they've taken the opportunity, given the COVID-19 restrictions and given the fact that the market's been closed, they've taken the opportunity to move some of the stalls. And so the little bottlenecks that used to occur should occur either much less so or not at all, because they've moved stalls to create more space at various points around the market. So you'll see a small change in that respect and more space to fit into. So all traders are opening, apart from the ones that get most intimate with customers. That would be the hair salons and the
nail bars,
nail and beauty bars and things like that. But in addition to beer, you'll be able to get yourself a nice coffee from Nick and Jess at Coffee Moor Market, lots of fresh fish and meat and vegetables and foods from across the world, of course, on the various continental stalls that we've got as well. So everybody's
the Waterall's pork pie.
Well, I used lockdown to trim myself. I know you mentioned that Jim had also done the same, Laura. So my biggest problem this week will be a simple one, and that will be trying to avoid having too many Waterall's pork pies. So I'm going to limit myself to 1 per week is the hope. Whereas sometimes it can creep up to 3 if I'm in a particularly good mood. Mm-hmm. So 1 per week, hopefully.
It's an important week this, because the standards that you set yourself will be the ones that you work to for the foreseeable now. So you've got to be.
Is this in terms of pork pies or customer service?
Well, I was thinking more in terms of pork pies. I guess customer service is probably a factor. It's probably worth thinking about. No, it's good. It'd be great to be back in the shop. I've almost forgotten what it looks like. To be honest, it feels like that long ago. So I'll be paying a visit this week.
If you come to the front door rather than the back door, I've obviously seen you, James, a couple of times as well over lockdown. So I think there's only Laura that we've not gazed into each other's eyes, Laura, other than online. So I've had to make do with the boys.
Well, I'm hoping to pop it. I've really missed the market. I think it's just that kind of all the different, obviously been limiting the shopping that we've been doing and stuff like that. And I do miss that kind of interaction with the different people and everything. So definitely want to pop in at some point this week and do a proper market shop.
I'll tell you what, Laura, I've seen Uncle Trev more than you over Has Trev been mentioned before on?
I don't. You've mentioned him without explanation, but I've met him before. Actually, after we recorded in Itchy Pig, I think me and Laura and Jim and Trev went for a beer. Actually,
yeah.
I think I ran off, didn't I? I think I had to pee somewhere.
Yeah.
So I don't.
It was when you could get free. It was like the Brewdog were doing, like bring in. Oh, what was it? You had to bring in something.
Bounty bars.
Bring in a bounty, and you got a free. What were it? 9%.
Yeah.
Was it the one with Lost Industry? Was it that one?
I can't remember.
I vaguely remember this happening. I remember you guys all talking about it when we were.
It was that big, strong one, I think.
The post-episode chat, yeah.
Yeah, because I bought double lots of bounty so that I could swap them for a beer, but also eat one with the beer.
We're talking about your uncle, aren't we, Laura?
Yeah.
Yes,
right? Yeah. Well, Trev is, I think he's the kind of person that has been quite, I mean, obviously we've all been affected in numerous ways by lockdown, but I think for me, Trev's probably the person that has had the most change because he lives quite far out of Sheffield. He works outdoors, but hasn't been, the company that he works for hasn't been doing anything over the course of lockdown. He doesn't drive, so he's reliant on public transport. And me and Jim, we're really close to him, and we go out with him at least once a week to the pub. So and it's something that we haven't been able to do and can't really see the next time we will be able to do it, really. So it's been quite a challenge. Miss my Uncle Trev, but I know he's been benefiting from Sean's beer delivery service and texting me every single beer that he's been getting in his boxes as well. So hopefully
awesome.
Not be too long before we can go for a drink with him again.
Yeah, we did talk about pubs last week, didn't we? And the date of early July was mentioned then. I think there's kind of conversations happening at the moment with regards to 2 meter social distancing and whether or not that'll be reduced, which kind of changes the equation a bit for pubs. And I guess it's a conversation that we'll want to revisit when that situation becomes clearer, because obviously at the moment, probably the majority of pubs that between us we go in, you'd think it's going to be really hard to see how that's going to work if it really can, other than beer gardens. If that 2 meters is reduced, then you think, all right, you can see how it works. But then we're all faced with that kind of personal question for ourselves about whether or not we feel comfortable with that. And that's going to be, I can see that being a real dilemma, because we all want to go back and support our pubs, of course we do, but we've all got our own kind of questions to ask ourselves with regards to personal safety and stuff like that. So we'll revisit that in a few weeks. A topic for us to kind of talk about this week, and this is something we've talked about we have a messenger group where we fairly consistently every week we're kind of chatting and whatnot and putting the world to rights. And obviously at the moment, for the last 2-3 weeks, big topic of conversation right around the world has been the Black Lives Matter movement, and it kind of got us thinking a bit about the beer scene, particularly in Sheffield, which obviously is where we're all from. But I guess that, other cities will probably, other towns and cities will probably kind of share an interest in this. And we actually toyed with the idea. I mean, there's the four of us on the episode this week. Earlier in the week, we were chatting about the idea of inviting someone on from a Black or ethnic minority community to kind of talk to us about their experience of the beer scene. And it was a dilemma for us because we feel it's a really important topic and one that needs to be talked about, because I think we'd all agree that on the beer scene that kind of Black and minority ethnic communities are not represented particularly well at all, and the reasons for that. But we're also aware of kind of doing something that felt like a bit of a box ticking exercise, and this is something that we feel quite genuinely about, and I hope I speak for all four of us here, and obviously the all three of you can kind of jump in and say whatever you want, but I think we all feel that it is a really important matter, and one that it's an important conversation to have, but it's not a conversation to have because we kind of think that it's doing our bit or whatever. So we didn't want it to kind of look like we were doing something to try and kind of look relevant or anything like that. It's because we really do care. So we thought the best thing to do is just kind of talk this through, because I feel really strongly about this, and I know, Laura, you kind of share my opinion in terms of the fact that I feel quite frustrated that I feel like I should be doing more, and that's not just with regards to beer. That's with regards to the whole world at the moment, and the clear evidence of racism that still exists in the world now. And I feel frustrated that I'm not doing more. But at the same time, it's not about me. It's about a lot more than that. And listening and learning and kind of taking in information and taking in what's happening in the world feels like the right thing to do at the moment, rather than putting stuff out on social media for the sake of it, or you know kind of where I'm going with that. I think the beer world, and I mean, Laura, I'll come to you first because obviously I mentioned you there. The beer world does feel like one that probably faces a particularly big challenge with this, because we realized as we thought about it this week, and this is not in any way a deliberate thing, and in fact we didn't realize this until we sat down and thought about it. We've never had a Black guest on the Hopcast. It's never happened, and none of it, all of us are, in terms of our social politics, we're all very liberal, we're all very open and everything, so there's definitely no agenda there. But you kind of think about the beer world generally, particularly in the UK, and that kind of Black representation, it's not huge, is it?
No, it's not at all. It's something that I'm very aware of, because I really like discussing women in the beer industry, and I've done a few talks for various groups about representation of women and how women are perceived by other women and that kind of thing. And one thing that kind of struck me on that is there's a lot of progress being made in that area. Like me and Lucy were chatting about last week. Obviously, the work isn't done and women are still underrepresented, but there is progress being made there. And I think that's kind of made it really hit home how much further behind wider representation of other groups, such as Black and ethnic minority people, is within beer. And I think it's, for me, it's all about being open, trying to learn more, trying to educate myself, surround myself with people who have knowledge that they're willing to share, and all of that kind of thing. But it's something that we really do all need as an industry to pull together, raise awareness and work on as a collective, I think. But yeah, it is, I don't have any kind of figures to hand or anything like that, but the representation is absolutely woeful in the industry as a whole. And I think, acknowledging that is probably one of the first steps to helping to remedy it. And I think that's something that conversation has now, begun and been put at the forefront of more people's minds, which hopefully is a really good first step for us all.
I mean, Sean, we've kind of talked before, haven't we, about kind of the craft beer scene and how it's it's quite open, it's quite liberal, and I don't think of and I guess I am thinking mostly about the craft side of the beer world here, but I don't think of that and think, oh, maybe it does harbour kind of roots of any kind of racism or anything like that. It doesn't feel like the kind of industry where there should be a problem with this.
No, I think that the modern beer scene in the UK has done from my point of view, a fantastic job of being a fully inclusive part of the industry. As to why there isn't a greater representation of black and ethnic minorities within the beer scene, again, I don't know. There are people perhaps better qualified than I and us to perhaps explain that and consider that with statistics. But it does feel like a fully inclusive place to socialise and work and live within. So I'm slightly puzzled by that fact. Talking more specifically from Beer Central's point of view, we're very fortunate to be in the Moor Market. We celebrate the Moor Market's multicultural nature in terms of the people that work in there and the people that shop in there. So we have a fair number of black and, again, minority ethnic customers. Sheffield's a real big, although I don't think it recognises it, it's a real big tourist city. And so we have customers in the shop from all parts of the world. And of course, we treat them all exactly the same in sense of we're kind, we look after them, we're cheeky with anyone that comes into the shop who's from somewhere else in terms of their ability to speak English and our inability to communicate in any other way. So we're always really sort of positive in that sense and try and build confidence in that sense. So it's a brilliant place to work. But again, I don't know. I've not seen any particular writing or reading in terms of representation within the beer industry. It'd be useful to know whether there is any decent research on the matter. But it feels like it feels as inclusive as it potentially could be, the modern beer industry. But I might be missing something. We might be missing something. I don't know.
I totally agree with that, and it is kind of a little bit baffling because it kind of feels like something that we shouldn't even really be needing to have this conversation. But clearly there's a part of this jigsaw that's not there at the moment. There's something that's just not quite clicking. So I think it's good to talk it through. Adam, have you kind of got any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think when we talked about it, it's just a tricky situation. It was from people who like us who are quite liberal, and maybe it's something that never really comes to mind because you treat everyone normal. And like I think my take in a lot of this stuff, I've not really posted anything online at all, but it's just to be a lot more mindful about everything. Just really not overthink things, but just take an extra step about thinking about how you think about the wider picture. I mean, this is a really odd analogy, but like I was doing a colouring book today with my daughter, and she got some new pens, and like, oh, she's kind of said, oh, there's a new like kind of flesh coloured pen in that set, and I'm like, that's only a flesh coloured pen for a white person, you know what I mean? So I naturally went, oh, I'll move away from that. I'll grab a different colour pen and colour that help her colour in with different colours, and it's something you don't really think about because you just kind of, I don't know, it's not a conscious thought. But in terms of the beer world, I mean, when we were talking about it, especially in Sheffield, I could barely count people on one hand that I could kind of think about that I bumped into or chat to or met that kind of fall into that category. A couple spring to mind, like Frankie, who Sean knows, I met at Smod once, had a good chat with him. Now friends on social media and chat away and stuff. in the actual like brewery world, I mean, I'm not someone who kind of goes through everyone's staffing, but I mean, there's Jaeger down at Wildcard, who's quite a public figure, and then Garrett Oliver at Brooklyn, were quite sort of, quite bigger names. But apart from that, I really struggle to bring anyone to mind, as any kind of, massive influence in a wider sense. So it's just trying to be more mindful, I think, just generally, and say not trying to do anything in a forceful way, just change how I kind of approach things, I think, a little bit. But yeah, I think we'll all think about, future Hopcast episodes, and it's just, we've been very open in lots of different sort of minority groups, in the past, and maybe that's something that we just need to kind of think a little bit more about, and for future.
Yeah, I agree with everything you said there. And I think as much as, we've kind of felt the right thing to do is to tread a little bit carefully and just talk about this honestly, we also recognize the fact that, we can influence some conversation on this because, we have, it's not a huge platform, but we have this platform, we have this podcast, we have these outlets. So that's kind of what we want to do today, really, is just kind of try and get that conversation going. At any point, if you want to get in touch with us, you can do. We would be particularly interested to hear from, anyone who is from the Black and minority ethnic community, on their thoughts in terms of the beer scene, particularly their thoughts. And if you wanted to come on an episode, that would be great. But if you just wanted to kind of drop us some thoughts through about, what more the beer world can do, whether that is pubs and bars, whether that is breweries, whether that's us as fellow drinkers, or whether that's us in terms of people that can kind of lead a bit of a conversation, we would be really interested in hearing any thoughts, and that is wide open to everyone. That's not something that we are directing just at the Black and ethnic minority conversation communities. Anyone that kind of has any thoughts that they want to send our way, please do. The other thing that we've got going on at the moment, obviously, is preparations for our beer festival next weekend. So the first Chef Hop Fest, which starts next Friday, which is coming around very, very quickly. So less than a week now to go until the first one. So Friday night, 8:00 is session number 1, hosted by me, which is Loud and Proud is the name of the theme, which means whatever it is that you want it to mean. There is no rules there. It just, we've all got to justify how our beer kind of fits that theme. And then it is over to Laura for session number 2, 6:00 on Saturday. Just tell us a bit about your theme, Laura.
My theme is sours and mixed fermentation beers, in honour of the fact that in another world I would have been drinking lots of those kinds of beers in Amsterdam at Carnival Britannomyces. So that's why I've chosen that.
Good stuff. Saturday evening, 8:00. Adam is going hard, aren't you, Adam?
Going hard, yeah. Yeah, 6% and above. Do what you want with that. But I'm thinking Sean's been pushing for the Impy Stouts on his Sunday episode. So, if you want something different, then maybe an IPA or something. I imagine people are probably going to gravitate towards that kind of style. But yeah, just bring something strong along.
Good stuff. Your session, Adam, is the only one that I've not got a beer sorted for yet. So that is my project for
honest,
this week.
I've not either. I was thinking of like I've got like a stout in mind. Then I thought, do I save that and come and see Sean on Sunday? So I'm undecided. Yeah, we'll see.
As you mentioned there, Sean then wraps up the weekend for us on Sunday evening, 6:00, with Stout Sunday. What kind of things are you hoping people are going to bring along, Sean?
I was messaged about an hour ago by one of our listeners, Sean Miller, who's a customer at our place and at various places in Sheffield, and he asked me, was I doing Stout Sunday because I'm a stout expert? And when I explained that the simple fact was that I could only really make myself available for the Sunday slot, and that Stout Sunday is already a thing, and that I just went with Stout Sunday as a result of that. I think he was a bit disappointed of the lack of intelligence that went into my particular choice. So apologies to Sean. I know he'll be watching and listening to this at some point. So thank you for granting us with more intelligence than perhaps we have. So yeah, that's the reasons we're going with it. I haven't yet thought of a beer for my session or any of the others so far, but I've got all week to be able to browse our shop and warehouse and select something. So I was also 2 weeks ago a bit flippant in saying anything but Guinness. And if I go to Dublin, I did last September with my dad and my father-in-law, I don't really want to drink anything other than Guinness. So perhaps I was a bit flippant on that. If someone wants to come on the show and have a bottle or can of Guinness and talk about a lovely memory of some trip to Dublin or the Republic of Ireland, then I would think that would be a beautiful thing. So there are no rules.
Oh, so you've removed. I'm going to have to change the event listing now.
I
That was
saw
the only rule that I put down.
I felt guilty. I felt guilty. I have some pictures on my phone that I delete a lot of pictures off my phone because it's running out of memory. But I didn't delete my Dublin Guinness pictures from last September, so it made me feel slightly guilty. So there's no need to rewrite anything, James. But this is a public admission that Guinness can be included should anyone want to link it. And I'm particularly keen on mine and perhaps everyone else, but I like stories, a bit like our bottle shares. I'm not quite as focused just on what the beer tastes like and what the mouth feels like. That's interesting. But if people can come on with a beer that gives a little bit of a story, a bit of background either about them or somewhere that they've been before or a friend or a memory, I think that's just as important as the actual beer itself.
Good stuff. I'm glad you said I don't have to update the event because I can't remember the password. So it'd be a problem. There are still I say a handful, and I really do mean a handful of places available for all of the sessions at the moment. None of them are completely full. We have set a limit on the number of people so that it still feels kind of cozy and intimate without getting kind of a little bit out of control. So there will be a limit. So it is wide open. If you want to attend any of the sessions, then head to sheffieldhopcast.eventbrite.com, sheffieldhopcast.eventbrite.com, and you can reserve your place. It's completely free. All you need to do is join us on Zoom, bring along. You only need one beer. You don't kind of need 7 or 8 beers or anything like that. Just one beer that fits with the theme.
James, should we clarify that a few people have been in touch about the potential use of Facebook Live for the event, which I know we discussed between ourselves. So, and the potential use of the recording anywhere else. So, can we clarify anything on that in that respect? I know a few people were worried about that.
Yeah, I mean that's probably still something for us to have a bit of a chat about between the four of us, because it was the initial plan was that we would, as we were doing it, we'd just stream it onto Facebook. So it kind of be warts and all, you know. It would be if one of us makes a mistake or something, it doesn't matter. It's just kind of like a kind of a simulcast, kind of just going out live on Facebook, so that if anyone wanted to invite their friends or family to kind of watch and you know, maybe even drink along with a beer themselves, but didn't particularly want to come on the episode, then you know they could kind of feel involved with it. And then in the same way that, you know, we always just kind of record our chats and then I kind of chop a few bits out and turn it into a podcast episode, we'd be doing the same thing. So the actual podcast episodes themselves will be edited a little bit. So, you know, if anyone that comes on kind of, you know, makes a mistake or there's any kind of dropouts or anything like that, then that would kind of be edited. But the Facebook Live stream would just kind of go out as it is, really, just kind of, you know, a bit of a warts and all, just kind of dead honest. Here's, you know, kind of our sessions, and then, you know, people can dip in and out through the course of the weekend. If we do decide between the four of us that we won't make any changes to that, we'll obviously announce that on social media through the week. We don't want anyone to feel uncomfortable or under pressure, but it will be very relaxed. It will be very informal. Each session's got one of us that's going to be leading it. So, you know, no one kind of feels that they've got to be under pressure to kind of, there won't be any awkward silences or anything like that. We will be leading the sessions. Fingers crossed, it might be that all four of us are at all four of the sessions. I know we've individually kind of got a few other things that are going on. Adam's obviously got a young family. Sean's got a shop to run. Me and Laura don't really have lives, so we'll probably be at all four of them.
Yeah.
So yeah, so yeah, I mean, we'll kind of, between the four of us, we'll kind of lead the conversation, but everyone will be able to join in as much or as little as they want, really.
Yeah, it'd be good to emphasise that it is much more casual than perhaps we might lead people to believe. So there's no real pressure or stress for anyone to feel for it. We would hate that. We're not doing it for that reason. So it's just a bit of chit chat, a few beers, and no more than that. We won't be over specialist or over analytical. So it's nice and easy.
My dad's birthday on Friday. I'm tempted to get him to join in on your session, James.
Yeah, bring him along. That'd be good.
He keeps sending me pictures. He's really got into Jaipur at the minute, which is he's had it before, but it's kind of like it takes a lot of beating this. And then he got some cans of the Jamestown. He's obviously still a supermarket kind of guy. And then yesterday I was saying, you should try get some of the North Brew Sputnik, and then he sent me a picture of a box of that. So he's getting there. He's getting there. So
Adam, that explains we've had the North availability email that comes every Sunday, and they're completely out of Sputnik.
Yeah, they're doing the boxes of it now in like supermarkets.
So your dad has snatched part of our order away this morning.
Probably more like me, but
they have got a new triple fruited ghost coming out though, mango and passion fruit. So that's something for everyone in Sheffield. That'll be arriving in various outlets in Sheffield over the coming week, I would have thought.
Oh.
And they're always very excited. I know, James, you're particularly keen.
I'm a big fan of that, which kind of brings me on actually to talking about this beer, the Mango Cacao Sour, which actually the more I've drunk, I quite like it. It's weird. I mean, the mango flavour is by far the strongest, and then there's just almost kind of like a little sort of bitterness just sort of lingering at the back, almost as if it was kind of something that you had eaten before you drank the beer, and it's just lingering in the background a little bit. But I wouldn't say that I dislike it, but it's probably not a beer that I'd rush back to have another one of. As I said at the beginning, I'm a big fan of breweries that kind of just do weird shit. I just like that. I just like doing stuff that's just a bit odd and see whether or not it works. So yeah, fair play. Adam, what's your? It was a red IPA, wasn't it? What's it like?
Was, yeah, really nice actually. Weirdly, thinking we're here for about an hour, I do sometimes drag another beer up with me to fill the hour, and I did have another red IPA. So in a comparison with the mighty Thornbridge.
Middle.
It does actually hold up. It's nice. I think a red IPA like that's a red rye. I think that was American rye. I think, but it's quite red. But it's not something I go for. But once I am drinking it, I really enjoy. It's just that initial spark that just doesn't always I don't always gravitate towards them. I usually gravitate quite a lot, but you know what I mean. It doesn't feel like something that's warm and kind of nice and sort of stouty, or something that's really sort of thirst quenching like a pale ale or IPA. So it fits in that weird middle ground, a bit like kind of best bitters do, I suppose. The way it's just, because they're quite strong sometimes. These are both over 6%. It's just that point where when do you drink a red IPA or a red rye? When's that ideal point to drink one? But yeah, it's really nice. Liked it. Enjoyed it a lot. Especially because I tend to think in the Lost Industry is more of a sour beer kind of thing. But it's decent.
Good stuff. Laura, new brewery, what's it like?
It's all gone. I really enjoyed it. I think that's exactly what I needed. Pilsner style, really, really clean, really crisp, very, very suppable. Yeah, I'd look out for them again. Not a brewery that I've ever even heard of, so was really pleased to find this. And not only do I love cats, I've also been singing The Cure to myself, kind of in my head. So added bonus side effect there as well.
Good stuff. And Sean, are you as happy with your beer as you thought you would be?
Yeah, it's very murky, very juicy. Often when we put our beers up for sale, we put them up for sale, and if they all go, they all go. And we've got 48 cans of this. And on my recording sheet, I obviously put down just 46 cans because I brought one for me and one for Deborah. So I know some people missed out on this, so that always makes us feel quite guilty.
Mm-hmm.
So apologies for drinking this in such a public way if you missed out on it.
Rubbing the noses in it.
Yeah. But a really lovely, refreshing beer, perfect for between 5 and 6 o'clock, and perfect for the scorching sunshine that has been blinding me for the whole of this episode. So I've enjoyed it.
Don't complain about the sunshine, Sean. Don't complain about the sunshine. Right, all we're going to do then is do beer selfies, and that's going to wrap us up for our episode this week. So if we are all nice big smiles. There we go. Good stuff. Thank you very much. As I said earlier, if you do want to get in touch with us, talk about any of the things that have come up in this week's episode, you can contact us via email, beer@sheffieldhopcast.co.uk. Our DMs on Twitter are open as well, so you can get in touch via Twitter. We'd love to hear from you and what you think. Sean?
James, before we finish, Adam on our behalf wrote a really excellent blog, and I know his editor Laura and also contributed heavily into that. So we should perhaps remark on that and encourage people to have a read at that. We've shared it on social media.
Yeah, it's all up there now. I worked out how to create a blog section in the on the website, so it's all seems to be working.
Thanks for doing that, Adam. And
we might do that more regularly now. If people are interested in reading some bits and bobs, we've got loads of kind of little ideas. I know Laura's quite interested in, beer and food and stuff, and we could maybe put some things up about that. It's just an extra little outlet, and a few minutes reading just to keep people's interest in the week.
Yeah, perhaps as well. Me and James have got an exciting few weeks to look forward to. Actually, perhaps less so you two, although you might. You might say different, but the championship starts again next weekend. So next Saturday, James, you're at where?
We are at home to Forest.
And we're away at QPR. So at some point, fitting football in with our beer chat might be.
I've always been interested in doing something about the. For away fans in like good little pub crawl routes and things for away fans safe kind of. When I go to games and have a drink before a game, if it's after work, you often see little pockets of people who have kind of hit Kellam Island or and I'm always getting asked about where they should go next. I think it might be a nice little episode or a blog post or something. Might be quite interesting.
There were a fair number of football
so ill
fans.
in it,
Yeah, a small number of football fans embarrassed themselves yesterday, and so most football fans are like me and James, I would imagine. And so
soft as a brush.
Yeah. So the very best of luck to Barnsley and our survival campaign, and apologies to James in advance of hoping that they get a big point deduction in their July court case. Stroke EFL. Yeah.
Rotherham got promoted as well.
Rotherham up there as well. Yeah.
I'm
Laura, you got a team?
If I'm scared to say this now with James in the virtual room, but I'm probably Sheffield United. I can pretty much see the ground from my window.
That's fair enough, isn't it? Come on.
Well, yeah, my dad's a big Blades fan, so I was brought up as a Blade.
We had a pre-season, lockdown late season friendly with Sheffield United yesterday. We won 2-0. So Super Barnsley a fighting heart.
I just want to mention this, by the way. I'm saving this ready to retweet this when the time comes. But this is a tweet of mine from the 29th of April last year. that says, you probably can't see that very well because of the glare, but it was basically congratulating Barnsley on getting promoted and commiserating Rotherham going down, and in advance of this season, to congratulate Rotherham for coming up and Barnsley to going down. So that looks, I mean, half of that's already come true. So when Barnsley's relegation is confirmed, I will take great pleasure in retweeting that. And if you want, Sean, I'll tag you in just so that you can experience it firsthand. So we'll look forward to it.
I would love that. And I will, I'm already thinking of my reply.
Brilliant. Right then, we'll be back next week. Well, we'll be back next weekend 4 times over. So first session next Friday evening, 8:00. Head over to our Facebook page, probably, if you want to watch the stream of that. If anything changes, we will of course let you know via social media. Have a great week in hopefully the sunshine. Brill. See you soon.
See you later.